oh Christmas tree, can I put you up in October? I don't know. Let's ask the beautiful Magic 8 Ball. Magic 8 Ball, can you put up a Christmas tree in October? Don't count on it? Really? Don't count on it? Let's ask again. Magic 8 Ball, can you put up a Christmas tree in October? Don't count on it? Well, we tried. Hey, welcome to the show. Let me ask you a question. Can you put up a Christmas tree in October, 2 months before December? Sounds kind of crazy, I know, but October falls for Halloween. November is Christmas, is Thanksgiving, while Christmas falls in December. We'll weigh some common sense in just a little bit, but first, here's Les Trent.
Christmas tree, oh Christmas tree, oh Christmas tree. Even though it's the last day of October? With 55 days to go till Christmas, some families are already putting up their Christmas trees.
Twinkle, twinkle, baby, twinkle, twinkle.
Put the tree up, and then the needles fall off, and then you have to put another one up. Because you put it up so early. You like that.
Believe it or not, in Yonkers, New York, they're already putting up Christmas trees.
In Los Angeles, Courtney Hollingsworth's artificial tree is already up and has been for the last 31 days.
I just love everything about Christmas. The first day of fall, and I'm immediately putting up my Christmas tree.
Britney Spears' latest video features, yes, a Christmas tree. Psst, is it too early for a tree, she asks? Courtney has the answer.
I don't think it's ever too early to put it up. It just makes me really happy.
Well, if putting up a Christmas tree makes you happy for October, so does my common sense alert. Look, Thanksgiving falls on November, October falls on Halloween, Christmas falls on December, July falls on the 4th of July. Well, there's Christmas in July. But that's when you can just put up a Christmas tree, down some Christmas, put some Christmas songs on, and then just be like, what's going on? And when December 1st falls around, that's when you put up a Christmas tree. Don't even think about putting up a Christmas tree in freaking October. People are going to look at you freaking weird, and then they're going to ask themselves, what the hell is wrong with you putting up a Christmas tree in October? You may love the holidays, you may love spirits, go shopping early. I mean, there's the Black Friday shopping. But we have to understand this. Christmas falls in December, sometimes in July, when it's Christmas in July. I just imagine like putting up a Christmas tree in October, and then what would happen to me? I'd get beat up on the street for putting up a Christmas tree in October. Or, what would have happened was, or what would have been like was, I would have paint, and it would have gone wrong. That's what it would have been like.
Junior, come get this motherfucker before I can't get it. Junior, I said, come get this corn, I can't get it. It's too far up there. My bad, Eddie. You motherfucker. Eddie, I tripped. My fault, Eddie. You a goddamn lie. Ain't no fucking way. How the fuck do you don't see me standing right there? I tripped. I should go wash your motherfucking face. You didn't see me? You see me? Right here. Then look at this shit all in my motherfucking beard. Goddamn it, you was one goofy motherfucker. You a goofy mother. Look at this shit. Talk about you ain't fucking see me. All the way up in the goddamn corner. Now I gotta spit this fucking paint out of my motherfucking face. You fuck.
Wow. So that's what happens. That's what I would do. I would have put up a Christmas tree, put up the decorations, and then June would have tripped and painted on my face, and we're like, "You goofy motherfucker! You don't paint my Christmas tree white. I'm." Something like that. But the bottom line here is, you want to start Christmas early, just knock yourself out. But don't get social media involved and have people ask, is it too late for Christmas? It's never too late for Christmas. Only in July, but if you want to put a Christmas tree in October, knock your lights out, but I wait until after Thanksgiving. And don't even wait till after the Super Bowl to put it up. That's a different video. Alright, still ahead, a love story that would make you leave your seat. But first, 2 investigations into clotheslines. We showed you one from Dateline. Now we're going to show you 2, one from 2021, also from Dateline from Kathy Lee Gifford, and another one from Brian Ross. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Can you ever imagine as a celebrity that your name would be on a clothesline, like on a t-shirt, a button-down shirt? Now imagine that the same company is going overseas and probably doing the same thing. In Kathy Lee Gifford's case from years ago, that's exactly what happened. If you've been looking at this scandal, you've been looking at sweatshops that have been showing her name on the shirts. Tonight, we're going to show you these sweatshops that might violate all the labor laws. You also meet somebody who we also met when we talked about from Toy Story, who may give us some advice about what goes on overseas. Here's Dennis Murphy.
You can say I'm ugly. You can say I'm not talented. But when you say I don't care about children, that I will exploit them for some sort of monetary gain, for once, mister, you better answer your phone because my attorney is calling you today. How dare you?
The celebrity was distraught.
And we can't do anything about it in New York City, it seems like. But I'm supposed to be personally responsible for everything that happens around the world, in Honduras.
She said she had no idea that young teenagers in Latin American sweatshops were turning out part of the line of clothing that carries her name. And then, a fresh embarrassment. Workers in a New York sweatshop charged that they'd been shortchanged making the very same line of Kathy Lee clothing.
They will be paid. They will be paid.
Her husband tried to make amends, passing out envelopes of cash to seamstresses. Welcome Frank and Kathy Lee to the cutthroat world of the international garment game. A surprise not only to them, but to a lot of us unaware of a huge garment district just off our coastline.
Most people in the United States don't realize that there are 500,000 young women in Central America and the Caribbean who are producing apparel exclusively for the U.S. market.
Charles Kernigan is the American labor activist who made Kathy Lee's life miserable by linking her name to a Honduran sweatshop. He told us we should check out any label on all those piles of t-shirts for sale at the mall and see who makes them in countries like El Salvador.
The Salvadoran women, the young women who produce those shirts, get paid approximately 13 cents for every $12 shirt they produce.
So we went to El Salvador to take a look. We started at dawn in a mountain village, watching the school buses make their morning pickups. But the teenagers getting on board aren't going to high school. They're being delivered to another day at the sewing machines. in the guarded, sprawling garment factories. Most of the workers here are women and girls. They can work legally at the age of 14. They make 78 cents an hour, cutting, sewing the brand name casual shirts and pants for sale at your local mall.
This particular run is Eddie Bauer's.
U.S. clothing retailers typically contract their work to factories like this one. Salvadoran women working for Korean managers in a Taiwanese factory, turning out shirts made of Hong Kong cotton for American labels.
So you'll be making orders of T-shirts, whatever, and shipping them to the United States?
The factory looked clean enough on our brief visit, and workers told their guests with cameras they were happy to have jobs in a poor country. But when we met later with some workers who got fired from that same factory, we got another picture altogether.
You recognize this, Mandarin?
The former garment workers said tyrannical bosses virtually locked the factory doors until shipping containers were filled with orders.
When the quality wasn't what they wanted, they sometimes hit us. 2 or 3 times a week, we'd work all night.
The workers, who say they were fired for trying to start a union, gave us a long list of grievances, from locked bathrooms to being cheated on overtime. We asked the factory lawyer if the workers' complaints were valid.
Is Mandarin working teenagers illegal numbers of hours?
As you can see for yourself, there are no teenagers working here.
What's more, the U.S. apparel manufacturers who contract work out to that factory told Dateline they all follow local labor laws and prohibit child or forced labor. But after our cameras left the factory, so did the Eddie Bauer Company. We were told it no longer contracts at the plant. Kernigan, the labor activist, says the policy manuals of American retailers are often ignored on the factory floor.
The companies come down, they play with the high unemployment, they play with the starvation, they play with the stomachs of the women, they play with their ignorance, and they play with their fear.
In building after building here, you'll find young women behind sewing machines. And almost all of this was built by the American taxpayer. The U.S. apparel industry needed cheap labor, and the Salvadorans were hungry for the work. So the San Marcos Free Trade Zone, and others like it throughout the Caribbean and Latin America, sprang to life. Even as the U.S. apparel industry was dying, American aid programs here provided low-cost loans to train workers, build the factories, even to advertise for American companies looking for cheaper labor offshore. You read it right, 57 cents an hour. The intent in El Salvador was to rebuild the country after a savage civil war and provide a trading partner for the U.S. 2 people who fled the countryside where that civil war was raging now live in a shanty in the hills above El Salvador. Marta and Claudia Carcamo, mother and daughter. They worked together in the shirt factory you just saw. They hoped it would be their ticket out of poverty, but it broke. Claudia had left school in the 5th grade and needed the factory money to resume her education.
Claudia, how old were you when you began working at the factory?
He was 15.
15 years old. And what was your job at the factory?
I cut thread on the shirts.
Claudia, you were 15 years old. Did they ever make you work at night?
See, I was working day and night without any rest. That's why I quit.
Her mother, Marta, said she was fired for just talking with a pro-union worker. And she told us how other workers were treated.
Dummy, they called us. And used to hit people. And then would send workers out to sweep in the hot sun.
If the new apparel jobs for the Salvadorans haven't been all great, the loss of those jobs in America has been an absolute disaster in places like Hamilton, Alabama.
Oh, no. It is really hurt.
3 generations of Evil E. Duke's family have been making shirts at the Tollgate factory, selling them to customers like Macy's and Dayton Hudson for more than 40 years. But the average wage of $6.50 an hour just couldn't compete with the wages in Latin America. When we visited last November, pink slips were in the pay packets at Tollgate. And this is what the Tollgate shirt factory looks like today. It closed for good last Christmas weekend. The auctioneers arrived, gobbled off all of the sewing machines, and that was it. 4 decades of shirt making in Hamilton, Alabama came to an end. It's not just here. The padlocks are going up at apparel manufacturing plants all across the United States. Last year, 90,000 apparel jobs just disappeared. We watched Lex Moore dump a sophisticated button sewing machine right off the loading dock of the factory his father started.
When it's over, it's over. Out the back door. Out the back door. Jump up. That's right. What do you think killed the apparel business in America? Well, I think that's some of it is south of the border. And that's the countries, Mexico, Honduras, Costa Rica.
We can't compete on some jobs at very low wages.
Carla Hills, the Bush administration's chief trade negotiator, told us to look at the big picture. The apparel jobs we lose, she says, are more than offset by jobs created by international trade.
My life has been a public record for the last 28 years that I've been in this business.
But Kathy Lee, for one, says she's jumping ship as an endorser if retailers don't start policing the sweatshops.
If you can't make it better, then I'll get out. Absolutely. And I think
An honorable sentiment, maybe, but reforming the apparel industry could cause you to snap your thread. It's a business always country hopping for cheaper labor, and El Salvador is finding out how fickle it can be. Like those workers in Alabama at the old tollgate factory, Salvadorans are being priced out of the market. Even at 78 cents an hour, they're no longer competitive. Apparel manufacturers are quietly moving next door to Honduras, where some of Kathy Lee's line of clothing was made, and where an acquiescent workforce of teenagers and young women will sew for just 38 cents an hour. Hard to beat that wage, right? Nope. You can take your work to Haiti, where they pay 30 cents an hour. So it's very tempting to take your business to the lowest bidder, no matter whose name is on the label.
And I think every celebrity that you would talk to would say the same thing. Nobody wants to be involved in something like this.
Of course, not all sweatshops are overseas. Many still flourish in America. And we'll have more on those in a future Dateline investigation.
Especially those that say made in the USA. Coming up, Brian Ross tells us about those overseas companies that have the label made in the USA. And what he found may shock you. Stay with us. Now that we heard that a celebrity has had her name imprint on shirts, meaning on tags, sewn on tags and shirts, we're now going to take you to a tiny American island, actually to another company overseas that has the label made in the USA. If you were to wear a shirt like this, what I have on, you would look at the back of the shirt like this, and it would say made in Bangladesh. That would mean you have to go to a plant in Bangladesh to where they make George shirts for Walmart. That's where I get most of my clothing from. I get all my clothes at the Walmart. The company George. That's where I got my wardrobe. That's where I got my shorts and shirts. But imagine you see something like this. All these dresses right here were made overseas. But could that make you? Could it make you angry? You're about to see something that may happen when you hear from a plant manager who just simply says he does not want to talk about it, or just says no comment. How could this happen on American soil, and could there be more laws put in place? Here's Brian Ross.
From the world of high fashion, down to t-shirts and jeans, Ralph Lauren and the polo company he founded have made a lot of money, setting an American standard, good taste, and smart business.
Hi, what do you got in the office?
But there's a little-known part of Ralph Lauren's company's business, 15 time zones away from the fashion runways of New York.
Can I have a look?
Clothing, manufactured on an island in the middle of the Pacific called Saipan, in factories, as we saw with our hidden cameras, jammed full of low-cost workers brought in from China, putting in 14-hour days under often miserable conditions, making clothes under contract for the American market.
Polo stock? Polo. P-O-L-O.
And it's not just Polo. The Gap, the Disney Company, parent of ABC, Jones New York, Liz Claiborne, and many others all have had some of their clothing lines made by manufacturers on Saipan too. A place where authorities say many factories have cheated thousands of workers out of their pay and their rights.
They're locked in politically, economically, and in some cases physically.
And as we found in a 2020 investigation on Saipan, when the long day of making T-shirts for America ends, workers are kept in crowded, often rat-infested labor barracks. Of course, some are better than others.
Yeah.
But at this one, the toilets didn't work, the showers barely worked, and the water was contaminated.
We've seen some very bad conditions.
Made all the more shameful by the fact that the island of Saipan is not some foreign sweatshop haven. The site of a famous battle during World War II.
Saipan cost 15,000 American casualties.
Saipan has been a territory, a commonwealth of the United States of America since 1976, a place where the American flag goes up every morning.
Sometimes you have to ask yourself what's going on out there. The things going on that really shouldn't be going on American soil.
Even though most of the factories here are foreign-owned, using Chinese fabric and Chinese workers, the clothing made here can legally be labeled as made in the USA, a label that was supposed to help protect the jobs of American garment workers.
It's outrageous. It's a total distortion of what the label was meant to indicate to the buyer.
Alan Saman, the official at the Department of the Interior in Washington, who oversees Saipan and other U.S. territories, says it's a huge scam that the Clinton administration is now trying to stop.
This is huge growth, an $800 million a year business, employing over 15,000 people, and in fact putting probably 15,000 Americans out of work.
Some retailers, including Polo and The Gap, have dropped or modified the Made in the USA label. But at this Hong Kong Chinese-owned factory at 2 in the morning, we saw Made in the USA labels going on Calvin Klein T-shirts, headed for American stores this spring. Across the room, Chinese workers were putting Made in the USA labels on sports shirts with the Fila logo.
The retail list reads like a who's who of major U.S. retailers. Just about everybody I've ever heard of is buying a product through there.
And they can legally say Made in the USA.
That's correct.
And it's all made possible because of the original agreement between Saipan and the U.S., permitting Saipan to set its own immigration policy. There are now far more foreign contract workers here than U.S. citizens, most from mainland China. Young women who can be seen being trucked around the island, women who have been told by recruiters in China they're going to good jobs in America, but who authorities say essentially have become indentured servants, a practice outlawed in America at the same time as slavery.
I've seen people locked in barracks, locked behind barbed wire.
So American law really stops at the barbed wire gates of these factories.
In many instances it does.
Eric Gregoire, Catholic Church human rights worker from New Jersey, who's also been a consultant for the Interior Department, is one of the few outsiders who have penetrated the closed world of the Saipan garment factories.
I don't think they like outsiders being around, especially outsiders like me, who might inform people what their rights are.
It is a world in which Gregoire says the women have to pay government officials in China fees of as much as $6,000 or $7,000 to even get jobs on Saipan, putting them deep in debt and beholden to both factory bosses and the officials back in China.
It's a perfect system if you're one of the people who are getting your clothing. You're getting it very cheap. You're getting it from a workforce who really is going to toe the line.
In fact, American authorities have discovered many Chinese workers are forced to sign secret agreements known as shadow contracts before they leave China, severely and in some ways illegally restricting their activities while on American soil. For example, in this agreement, translated into English by American authorities, workers are forbidden to participate in any religious or political activity, or to ask for a salary increase, or even to fall in love or get married, much as might be the case in mainland China.
To allow them to bring that onto U.S. soil is a very big concern. We've now documented the fact that management coerces female workers who become pregnant into having abortions.
Several of the cases the government says it's documented were at this factory, the one with the contract to make Ralph Lauren polo T-shirts.
T-shirt.
This Chinese woman, Tu Xiaomei, made T-shirts and pants at the factory until she became pregnant.
When I told them I was pregnant, they told me to have an abortion.
Tu Xiaomei says she refused to have the abortion and has now been barred from entering the factory.
And Are you going to have your baby?
妹妹，你打算想要你的孩子？是的。
Will you get your job back?
你还能要回你的工作吗？不能。能吗？
Cannot get her job back, she says. We want to ask you about the abortions. Do you know about the complaint? The bosses at the factory said they didn't want to talk about what they called ridiculous allegations. Human rights workers say it's common practice at this factory and others.
With 11,000 Chinese workers here, I've never seen a Chinese garment factory worker have a baby in my entire 4 years on site.
There are no children in those barracks.
Inside that factory, Chinese law applies. And Chinese law is supreme. Even though it's the United States, flag doesn't fly inside there.
We saw how it works when we were first on the island in December. Members of the governor's security squad in an unmarked car were assigned to follow our 2020 crew, keeping close tabs on the movements of a 2020 producer who was assigned to make contact with island dissidents.
We're going to be shifting over.
Even federal safety inspectors from the Labor Department's OSHA agency say they have a difficult time when they try to operate on Saipan.
Try to track down the employer.
With workers afraid to complain about often dangerous conditions.
Found locked fire exits, the sort of thing that's reminiscent of the Triangle Shirt Factory disaster.
We asked Frank Strassheim, the regional director of OSHA, to look at an undercover tape made for 2020 by a worker inside a Korean-owned factory that does a lot of business with the Gap, a factory that had a serious fire 3 years ago. The tape shows what Strassheim called serious fire hazards, including what appears to be an electric circuit that the workers told us was so overheated that fans had been placed in front of it in an apparent effort to try to cool it down.
That's clearly a violation.
What's so dangerous about that kind of thing?
Well, that you can overload your electrical circuits and have a source, it becomes a source of ignition. The building catches on fire.
The Gap, whose on-island buying office is a 5-minute drive away from the factory, said its people had not seen what 2020 found, and that the factory currently meets the Gap Code of Conduct. But this week, OSHA, based on its own follow-up investigation, cited the factory for repeat violations of fire exit requirements and for repeat violations involving toilets which didn't work, something we had also seen on our undercover tape. The factory's attorney told 2020 it is now fixing the problems OSHA found.
I told my members nothing abusive action is allowed.
The president of the Saipan Garment Manufacturers, James Lin, says it's wrong to say all factories on Saipan are bad places to work. And he gave us a tour of the factory he owns, a huge place whose biggest customer is the Gap. This is the factory visitors from the mainland are always taken to, a place that stands out for its cleanliness and adherence to safety rules. But even at this model factory, it was much, much hotter on the factory floor than back in Mr. Lin's air-conditioned office. Isn't it awfully hot?
No comment.
No comment. Mr. Lin, isn't that a pretty simple question?
It's not hot to me.
It's not hot to you? You're sweaty, I'm sweaty.
I'm not.
And what's the moisture?
It's oil. I'm oily face.
And as the tour went on, Lin simply stopped answering some of our questions. You're the head of the garment manufacturers in Saipan. Some of the women we've talked to here say they had been forced to have abortions to keep their jobs. They live in squalor. There isn't running water. They're cheated regularly on wages. Do you know about those kind of things? Mr. Lin? The questions angered Lin's business partners.
We try to break things.
Including former Saipan Lieutenant Governor Pedro Tenorio.
No. You want to sensationalize things because
There's no need
it
to.
sells.
You know what?
It sells.
There really is no need to sensationalize anything. Because the conditions speak for themselves.
But when you go back and put every goddamn thing bad over here, that's not good. That's not being fair.
But federal safety inspectors say while some factories have improved, the overwhelming picture on Saipan is of an island full of sweatshops.
Many of them are what I would consider sweatshops, yes.
That's not a term that you throw around loosely, I think.
No, I don't throw it around loosely, but that's indeed the best way to characterize a lot of the things that we've seen.
But Saipan has cultivated some powerful friends back in Washington, spending millions of dollars on lobbyists and free trips in the middle of the winter for for members of Congress and their staff. Congressman Tom DeLay of Houston, the third-ranking Republican in the House, went as a guest of the Saipan government over the Christmas holiday, a trip that included a tour of several factories and barracks, with one that even Congressman DeLay had to concede was nothing to write home about.
But you know, this trip has been very beneficial.
Still, at a fancy New Year's Eve dinner thrown in his honor, DeLay praised the outgoing governor, vowed to fight efforts back in Washington to change Saipan's immigration and labor law.
Because you are a shining light for what is happening in the Republican Party, and you represent everything that is good about what we're trying to do in America, in leading the world in the free market system.
And DeLay is just one of more than 80 influential congressmen and congressional staff members who have been brought out to Saipan. Most put up, as was DeLay, at the beachfront Hyatt Regency, about as far from the island sweatshops as it is possible to get on Saipan.
They're paying the way, so of course you're going to see what they want you to see.
They haven't seen the Saipan you've seen.
You can't see much from the Hyatt.
But the people making big money on the island sea are prosperous factories with contented workers making cheap clothes for the American market. Something the manufacturers say no one on the mainland has any reason or right to challenge.
What happened to the United States when we first got the colonies established and bring people in?
This
Don't you have coolies? Don't you have slaves? Did you? Isn't the American government that brought the slaves in and got the Civil War going and Americans killed themselves because of that?
So this is 1998.
No, it doesn't matter.
But what administration officials see on Saipan is a situation so out of hand, so inconsistent with American values, that there's actually talk now of cutting Saipan loose, ending its right to be called American soil.
If you want to have this kind of economy, fine. We just don't do it with the American flag flying overhead.
Boy, Brian, one would imagine that there's been some reaction from these companies.
We've heard quite a bit, Hugh. The companies that do business there all say they have codes of conduct that they expect the factories to follow. This Claiborne company said, for instance, they knew about the problems, but they're working with the factories to try to improve them. Others, Polo, Disney, JCPenney, said they were completely unaware of what was going on until we told them, and they are now sending executives there to investigate. And in fact, JCPenney has announced they will no longer use the Made in the USA label for clothing made in Saipan.
Where does it stand with regard to a possible change in the law?
Well, there are proposals before Congress, and an extended hearing is scheduled in 2 weeks to go into these various charges that we have revealed here tonight.
Boy, that's something revealed. Thank you, Brian.
Tonight, we take you to...
Wow. Something to look forward to. So next time you see that Made in the USA logo, ask yourself these questions or talk to the Labor Department. Just look at that shirt and maybe you'll know. Up next, a firefighter love story that would make you tear up and cry. Fred Francis has that story. Stay with us. We'll be right back. It's not often I do stories about injured people who fall in love with firefighters or police officers, but in this next story you're about to see, it all ended with an injured firefighter and with a love story that will make you leave the edge of your seat. Here's Fred Francis.
March 28th, day one. All I ever dreaded about the job had become reality. It was 2,200 degrees, and the fire burned him for 4 to 5 minutes. Oh, the agony he must have felt.
Tina Drennan is a fireman's wife. She's a school teacher and a painfully eloquent writer. She kept a powerful journal that offers a rare glimpse of the family of firefighters, what they endure, their private misery. Her journal began the night her husband John and 2 other men from Ladder Company 5 were caught in the horror every firefighter fears, a backdraft. A backdraft occurs when a room on fire is sealed, allowing no oxygen in to feed the fire. It smolders and gets very hot.
Check that door for heat there.
And when a door is open, like in this scene from the movie Backdraft, the oxygen is sucked in and ignites the fire.
I knew it was a bad fire just from the smell, and I sort of half jogged down here.
Captain Pat Brown was off duty the night John Drennan was called to that fire.
Units were coming in, the ladders were going up, and John and his men went right in upstairs, and they want to go to the floor above, which is the second floor here.
Captain Drennan and his team were trying to get into the second floor apartment. This is an actual picture of the backdraft that engulfed them. Fire roared up the stairwell, blowing through the skylight, trapping Captain Drennan and his men.
I heard somebody screaming over the radio that they found two severely burnt firemen and one dead civilian. And the dead civilian turned out to be Jimmy Young. He was burnt so bad they didn't even know it was a fireman.
Firefighter Jimmy Young, who was with Captain Drennan, died in that backdraft, but Captain and firefighter Chris Seidenberg survived. While emergency crews treated Drennan, a firefighter knocked on Vina Drennan's door in Staten Island.
He told me to come with him because John was hurt. He couldn't tell me to what extent, and I was filled with cold fear. As we rode, we talked, chit-chat, but it was the longest hour of my life. When we got to the burn unit, I knew it was bad. All I'd ever dreaded about the job had become reality.
I saw his back, and his back was really, really, really horribly burnt. And John kept asking me, he kept saying, how bad is it, Patty? How bad is it, you know? And I said, it's bad, John, it's really bad.
I went over to him and I rubbed his hair and I said, John Drennan, I've loved you from the first time I saw you. And he smiled. He had a nice smile. And I said, you're going to be all right. He goes, yeah, I'm going to make it, don't worry.
And she saw how bad it was. And she just hung in there, you know? She just hung in there and focused on John.
Captain Pat Brown was a Marine in Vietnam and is one of the most decorated firemen in New York. But that night, he was given the toughest assignment of his life. He was told to stay with the Drennan family indefinitely.
I told her initially, I says, I'm dedicating my life to this situation, to John Drennan and you, the fire department. I says, you know, I'm single, I have no family, and I'm going to be here all the time.
The Drennans have 4 children, married 27 years, just regular people, a loving, struggling family. Vina's a grammar school teacher who is used to grading kids' essays, but in the flash of one explosion, her own words, all her hours focused on her husband's suffering.
I need to write it. It'll keep me strong, and someday John will hold me and he will know that everybody loves him. Day 2, March 29th. John is bandaged and heavily sedated, but he knows we're there. His hand moves. The children cry large silent tears, and I wonder if I'll ever get another hug. I'm so afraid.
At the burn center, she sits and waits along with the family of firefighter Chris Seidenberg.
And I sit in a room with Chris Seidenberg's parents. The father shakes and the mother sits quietly. Their fear is felt by all in the room. At 8:10, Christopher died. A beautiful young man taken from us. Day 3, March 30th. I wake at 2 a.m. The kids are all asleep. Johnny Joe comes in my bed and I cradle him and I feel his warmth. I'm so afraid John will die. All I can think of is how close we've been. He's in surgery for 5.5 hours and he comes out strong. Dr. Madden says the burns are worse though than he thought. It is 65% of his body and all 3rd and 4th degree. I'm terrified. Such a man can't die. Day 4. We go to the fire scene. There are firefighters there and they let us in. I see the blackness and the smell and the tiny staircase. We drive to ladder 5, engine 24. The flowers outside the house show the warmth. People have been sending food and flowers and money. A man handed a check for $500 and just walked away. A lady places a lily and she hugs me. People stand and cry.
6 days after the fire, funerals for Captain Drennan's 2 colleagues.
Day 6. Oh, what a day. We attended the funerals of Jim and Chris. We stood tall and handled the day as well as we could. It was so cold. But knowing how you suffer, John made it okay. I feel like I'm in a movie, though, and there's no ending. There's hope, though, in my heart, John, for your recovery. 10 hours of surgery today.
I'd go in every day and I would tell him, which firemen were out there and this and that. And his left hand was good and he'd grab his trach and he'd try to speak, he'd say, Patty, help me, help me.
Day 11. It's hard feeling so helpless and frightened. I can't help fix my kid's pain and it's getting harder. Without Pat Brown, I'd be lost. He senses what keeps me going.
Thank you, Justine. This is nice.
It's hard to believe John and I were just regular people only 2 weeks ago. I wake during the night and I think about how to be strong, And then I wonder who's gonna carve the meat, and I cry. There must have been 6 surgeries so far, hours and hours. How much can his body take? If he dies, this time would have been so cruel. I could cry the tears of the ocean. I somehow must get courage. Pity scares me more than the pain. I'll hold on to the good life we had, knowing that in spite of our ups and downs, we were real people that loved each other very much. Some people never know that kind of love.
And few people will ever know the kind of love that firefighters have for one another. Pat told John that it was okay to stop suffering.
I say, John, look, your kids are going to be taken care of. Your wife's going to be taken care of. The fire department's going to look after John. I know you want to struggle. I know you want to live. And he's shaking his head like this. I said, look, John, if you want to go, it's okay. It's okay, John. You can go. You know, we'll take care of your family. You know. You were telling your friend it was okay to die? Sure, yeah. You know, I'd be whispering in his ear. You understand, right, John? And he'd go like this, you know. He'd start crying, you know. He couldn't move. The tears would come out of his eyes. I wiped the tears away, you know. And that's what I tell him every day, you know.
At the firehouse, the terror and tragedy of that night pushed some of the men into therapy.
A day doesn't go by that any one of these guys, including myself, doesn't think about it in some way.
For Craig Monahan, it was one of those stories that you hear every time a disaster happens. He was supposed to be where Jimmy Young died that night, working with Chris Seidenberg and Captain Drennan.
When the bells went off for that job, I was on the rig, I was putting my mask on, and we were pulling out of quarters. And Jimmy Young ran over to me. He said, "You got the roof," and he handed me the radio for the roof.
Craig went to the roof to cut a hole just like Captain Drennan taught him.
No matter what was done, nothing could have changed what was going to be the outcome. It's like something that's going to be with me for the rest of my life, you know? Not just the rest of my career.
The 40th day, they let me look in on him, and there was fear in his eyes. God, how I hate that look. Worse is the terror of all this pain. I don't know how this will end. I don't know if there will be a tomorrow, but I don't want him to suffer. This is the worst part, to see those frightened eyes.
John was wide awake, and I could see his eyes, you know, looking around. And he knew it, you know. He knew he was dying that day. And it's funny, so I put my arm around Vina, and she says, "I love you, John." And I said, "Good luck, John." Which I never, you know, I don't remember saying that. I said, "Good luck," instead of saying, "I'll see you later." And about an hour later, Dr. Madden come out, and he said, "We lost him," you know. We went back in the room for about 20 minutes, just me and her. I cried over his body and stuff. It was kind of beautiful, you know.
Then, on a brilliant spring day, New York, as only New York can, celebrated the life and courage of John Drennan in the grandest funeral of its kind in memory.
What a send-off, John Drennan. Oh, I'm so proud of you and the people you love. The people came, John, in droves, standing in line, telling your story and celebrating your life. I touched every hand, and I felt a genuine love and admiration for you. Your love of the job and the sacrifice you made have been a symbol to this city. I'll always miss you, big guy. You know, we had a good run.
Vina and her children shared that love with a city that felt their pain.
John Drennan had a wonderful life. He loved going to work every day. For 25 years, he's enjoyed his job. I think for the sake of my children, this is what we want to remember John Drennan for. That he was a good, caring person that wasn't in this job for his ego. That everything he did was to just help people. And thank you very much. We don't want to die at all, right? We want to live every day to the fullest, right?
Last June, Vina went back to her students at a Staten Island public school, but she did not return this school year. In many ways, that Vina will never return. Her life with John died with him. She's taken up running, trying to shape a new person, a new life, and frankly, she says, she's not sure if she'll ever find it.
6 months since the fire, and sometimes it feels like 6 years, and sometimes 6 days. I run and I run. 4 miles now. My legs are stronger than ever, and I'm a size 6. But so what? So what? John Drennan's dead, and so is Dina. Big parts of me died in that fire that night too, and I've lost my way, my focus. My friends want me to fit back into who I was, but I don't know how anymore. Who I was makes me cry because then I remember what I lost. It hurts so much to go back, and so I get through a day. And maybe someday I'll find peace again.
Captain John Drynan was one of 5 New York City firefighters killed on the job in 1994. It was the deadliest year for the FDNY since 1978.
What a remarkable story to look at. Next, the latest from Oxford, Michigan. Stay with us. Weeks from now, it'll be the 2-year anniversary of the horrific shooting at Oxford, Michigan. Let's give you the very latest. ProPublica.org published an article saying a sweeping report on a Michigan school shooting finds multiple failures and a troubled aftermath. Parents are already shaken by the fatal incident at Oxford High School, lost confidence in the school district when it hesitated to find and acknowledge accountability for the 2021 school shooting. In the end, it took 699 days to account for what went wrong before, during, and after a deadly shooting at Oxford High School in Michigan. Nearly 2 years after the shooting, which killed 4 students and 7 others, an outside consulting firm that conducted an independent investigation issued a sweeping report that faulted top administrators and other school officials for failure to responsibility by omission. I mean, that's why all the lawsuits were put in place. The 572-page report from the Guidepost Solutions, a New York-based firm that specializes in investigations, compliance, and security, said that threat assessment and suicide intervention had been carried out appropriately by the November 2021 shooting that could have been prevented. Guidepost also found the missed opportunities in the aftermath of the shooting. It describes efforts by the lawyers for the Oxford Community Schools and the teachers union to discourage people from cooperating in the investigation, showing why it can be so difficult for communities to find transparency and accountability for the following mass shooting. This was a whole article, but anticipating the report, the Oxford superintendent and the current board president informed families this month that the district would increase the mental health support on campuses following its release, and knowing that all the publicity funding all the Oxford Resilience Center established for those affected by the shooting would expand its hours. They also pointed families to Oxford's recovery plan and support services. And all of this this is just a Word document, all 572 pages. But this report said it failed everything. So now we know what happened during that time. Now what about Uvalde? We don't know there's anything new going on in Uvalde. Well, there is something new. Uvalde breaks ground on a new elementary school with plans to honor victims of the shooting. There's a tree at its center, and it will honor the victims of the shooting of Bob Elementary. Watch.
Intertwined with soft sobs from still grieving families.
We have to remember why.
A moment of silence, intertwined with soft sobs from still grieving families.
We have to remember why we're here. And I could just picture Amory being excited if she was able to attend this beautiful school.
The 21 have been incorporated in plans for the new Uvalde Elementary School, an oak tree with 2 main branches and 19 smaller branches bearing their names will stand tall in the library. Their families had input on ways to improve the design of the school with safety at the forefront.
They will be well protected. They will have security measures that unfortunately, we wish we would have had at Rob.
Saturday's ceremony was led by Uvalde High School senior, elected leaders, Uvalde CISD officials, and representatives from HEB spoke. Jerry Mata, Tess Mata's dad, was asked to take part in shoveling dirt.
Knowing that I put dirt on top of her casket, and then having to come here and throw dirt to build the school, it's pretty hard.
Initially, this groundbreaking was planned for the summer. Uvalde CISD Moving Forward Foundation Executive Director Tim Miller says the delays came from the bid process.
Based on the pre-bid budgets, we were at 75%, and so we're still working through the bids and coming up with that final price. And so once we do that, we'll be letting folks know where we're at with fundraising.
While today was focused on the groundbreaking of the new elementary school here, the conversation always comes back to Rob and where we're at in the demolition of this campus.
We have one outstanding investigation, and we hope to have that wrapped up. Well, we've been hoping to have that wrapped up for several months now. We're hoping to have that wrapped up this fall, still before the holidays. And as soon as that's finished, then we'll move forward with the demolition plans.
And we will know what happens when that happens. So
here at ABC News, we continue our
when that happens, we will let you know what's been going on ever since. So a great update from Uvalde. We'll be right back. Before we get to our viral break, on the season premiere, we asked the question: Is the Jason Aldean song "Try That in a Small Town" racist? Well, many of you voted, and here's the results: 67% of you said no. 33% of you said yes. Now, going on the last season, to where we talked about this doctor who either obeyed the rules or break them. We asked, what would you do if you're in a hospital and the doctor offered a new procedure for your heart attack and the rules say you can't do that? Almost 50% of you each said you would obey the rules and defy the rules. So that's what that's why I wanted to point out before we go on a viral break. And speaking of viral break, tonight's viral break is going to be all about a teacher. Now, we don't normally do viral breaks about teachers. I'm going to show you a video to where over 10 years ago, a teacher reads a rap song. Now, you remember 50 Cent's PIMP with explicit lyrics. When I first saw this, I laughed at the video because of what happened. This teacher read PIMP to a class, and 50 Cent saw it and he tweeted back. So let's take a look at this.
$1 out of me. No Cadillac, no curves. You can't see that I'm a motherfucking PIMP. Now Shorty, she in the club, she dancing for dollars. She got a thing for that Gucci, that Fendi, that Prada, that BCBG, Burberry, Dolce, and Gabbana. She feed them foolish fantasies. They pay her 'cause they wanna. I spit a little G-man, and my game got her. An hour later, have that ass up in the Ramada. Then trick niggers in her ear saying they think about her. I got the bitch by the bar, trying to get a drink up out her. She liked my style, she liked my smile, she liked the way I talk. She from the country, thinks she liked me 'cause I'm from New York. I ain't that nigger trying to holler 'cause I want some head. I'm that nigger trying to holler 'cause I want some bread. I could care less how she performed when she in the bed. Bitch, hit that trap, catch a date, and come and pay the kid.
that's funny.
I don't think the whole point of this, guys.
It's just funny that a teacher just said something about it.
I know.
Yeah, and like, I ignorant and all that.
I am reading the lyrics.
No, you're just doing your job.
Okay.
No, that's just.
It's just funny
What's-
to have one.
I know. I know. I understand. Look, baby, this is simple. You can't see. You fucking with me. You fucking with a P-I-M-P. I'm about my money, you see, girl. You can holler at me. If you fucking with me, I'm a P-I-M-P. Not what you see on TV. No Cadillac, no greasy, head full of hair. Bitch, I'm a P-I-M-P. Come get money with me, if you're curious to see how it feels to be with a P-I-M-P. Roll in the Benz with me. You could watch TV from the back seat of my B. I'm a P-I-M-P. Girl, we could pop some champagne and we could have a ball. We could toast to the good life. Girl, we could have it all. We could really splurge, girl, and tear up the mall. If ever you needed someone, I'm the one you should call. I'll be there to pick you up if ever you should fall. If you got problems, I can solve them. They big or they small. That other nigger you be with ain't no shit. I'm your friend, your father, and confidant, bitch. I told you fools before, I stay with the tools. I keep a Benz, some rims, and some jewels. I hauled her out a hole till I got a bitch confused. She got on Payless. Me, I got on gator shoes. I'm shopping for chinchillas. In the summer, they cheaper. Man, this hoe you can have her. When I'm done, I ain't gonna keep her. Man, bitches come and go, every nigger pimp you know. You saying it's secret, but you ain't gonna keep it on the low. Bitch, choose with me, I'll have you stripping in the street. Put my other hose down, you get your ass beat. Now nick my bottom, bitch. She always come up with my bread. That last nigger she was with put stitches in her head. Get your hoe out of pocket, I'll put a charge on a bitch, cause I need a 4 TVs and AMGs for the sex. Hoe make a pimp rich, I ain't paying, bitch. Catch a date, suck a dick, and yeah, in Hollywood they say there's no business like show business. In the hood they say there's no business like hoe business, you know. They say I talk a little fast, but if you listen a little faster, I ain't got to slow down for you to catch up, bitch. Now, if you listen...
No, I'm not crazy for showing you this. I mean, this is what the teacher did. This substitute teacher is 70 years old. Reading all these, I don't know what you heard about me, PIMP, whatever. It doesn't matter. If the principal found out about this, the teacher would have been fired. And the point she would have made was, I was trying to teach the kids a lesson. What, by making them curse? God, I mean, it's even worse than saying the Pledge of Allegiance in Arabic. That's even worse than that. That's all for this edition of Give Me a Break Wednesday going to Thursday. Come on Throwback Thursday. We're going back to our season premiere where we talked about the Jason Aldean controversy. That's right. Jason Aldean is speaking out for the very first time, and we have his interview. That's on Thursday. We'll see you again for Throwback Thursday. For all of us here at YouTube, good night.